Okay, let's make this little now, and we can get started. Oops. Okay. All right, thanks everybody for attending today. We are going to talk about a topic that's not going to take an hour of your time, but it is one that we feel is extremely important in all of the online marketing that we do. We think it's extremely important for you, and we make sure all of our clients have this set up for them. So we're going to talk about increasing your revenue by 10% annually using one online marketing strategy. And just so you know, the 10% didn't come out of the air. Actually, some folks report a up to a 34% increase in revenue when they have an e-newsletter. So we're going to talk about that. Again, it's not going to take a full hour, but we are recording this. If you want to ask a question, you certainly may do that. And what I want you to do is type in your question in your little dashboard that you have for this webinar. There's a little area for questions. Go ahead and type your question in there as I go. At the end of the webinar, if there are any questions, I will go through those in the order that they were typed in, and I will answer all of them. So let's get going here. Just a little commercial about us. We are LTC Expert Publications. If you've never come across us or if you've never talked to us before, we do website development, online marketing programs, search engine optimization, natural search engine results, social media marketing, full content management, meaning we write the content, we post the content, we search engine optimize the content for you, and we syndicate the content out to Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, your e-newsletter, and other places. And our clients are all 90% of them are in the home care industry. That's our niche. We don't do lawyers, plumbers, roofers. We don't do business with those folks. We stick to the home care market. We've been doing this since 2008, and we work with independent home care agencies, franchise home care agencies, private duty, Medicare certified. We have a few assisted living facilities in there, and some other senior services that are not home care agencies. So we pretty much can handle any senior service that comes our way, but our niche has always been home care. So having said that, welcome to all of you, and welcome to George Novison. He's my business partner. Hi, George.
Hi, Valerie. Hi, everyone.
And George will be on the line, too, in case any questions come up. And George is the person that is our expert in business development, and he talks to everybody when they're thinking about coming on board with us. So you can see our website is there, and our phone number is 888-404-1513 if you need anything from us. So what we really want to talk about today is an automated e-newsletter. And this slide illustrates just a couple of examples. And you might think to yourself when you're looking at these examples that they're not super crazy, beautiful, they're not a work of art, and you would be right about that. But there are reasons behind that. So we're going to talk about an e-newsletter not from the standpoint of you creating one every single month and taking the time to do that, but what we want to talk about is automated e-newsletters, something that you can set it and forget it, just like Ron Popeil has that infomercial where he sets it and forgets it. That's the kind of thing that we're talking about, because usually the business owners that we work with are so busy, and sometimes they're a one-person shop or a mom-and-pop shop, or they have just a few staff members, and none of them have the time to devote to this. But an automated e-newsletter that goes out every single month without fail is a huge help to your bottom line, and I'm going to share with you why that is. And I'm going to share with you how we do it, so that if you want to do this yourself, you certainly can. There are some tips and techniques in here, but we'll talk about those. So the first reason that we do a regular newsletter for all of our clients, and again, this is an automated feature. It's not something that we spend hours on. We have too many clients to spend hours on beautifying and deciding and picking and choosing and being magazine editors every month. So we make this a very automated process. But the reason that we do that is because it avoids follow-up failure. And whether you've been around the block for a few months or you've had a home care agency for 20 years, you know that there is no way you could possibly be the greatest follower-upper of all time and follow up with every single person you've ever met. It sometimes is just overwhelming. You go to a chamber meeting, you go to a senior fair, you collect all this great information on people, you get their email addresses, but you have to go back to the office and you have to address an emergency, and all that gets set to the side, and who knows when you're going to get to follow up. We hope that you follow up all the time. A very personal follow-up is the best thing to do. But having those email addresses and putting them into a system that sends out a newsletter one time per month is a great way to at least avoid follow-up failure to some degree. This isn't the best thing you ever want to do for a personal follow-up with a referral source, but it's better than nothing at all. And I'll talk about that, why that is in just a second. So an automated newsletter avoids follow-up failure. And the reason it avoids follow-up failure and the reason it increases your bottom line is because the lead close time for senior services often is very either a very short, like a lead will call, so a prospect will call, and either you close them right then and there because they're in the middle of an emergency, or it takes 6 months, a year, sometimes 2 years for that person to actually call you back. If that person is on your newsletter distribution list, your automated newsletter distribution list, what will happen is that, let's say Mary calls, her mother is not doing great at home by herself anymore, she's having some forgetfulness, not quite sure if she's ready for home care yet or if they can even afford it, but they know that things are going that direction. So she calls, she talks to someone in your office, maybe it's you, and you follow up with a nice email and send her out some literature and things like that, but you don't hear from her. And you don't hear from her. Maybe you do have a follow-up process where you call in 2 weeks or you call in 1 week, and but eventually, after a couple of months, you realize this dog ain't barking. So she's, we're just going to let her, be on our list, and if she calls back, she's in our system. But if you actually put her on a newsletter distribution list, then the odds are that the day or the month that mom finally falls and breaks her hip or has a stroke or wanders away or drives in the car and gets lost, and the family decides this is it. That was the straw that broke the camel's back. We need care, and we need it right now. We all have to work. We need somebody in the house. And your newsletter, after all that time, still continues to show up in Mary's email box. Even if she's deleted the last 6 of them, this is the 7th month that she's received it, and suddenly she remembers, you know what, I talked to those folks. They put me on their email newsletter distribution list. I can't take it anymore. I'm going to give them a call and say, you know what, we're ready. And that is how it happens. So either people are in crisis or they take a long time to close. Now, if you did not put her on your email newsletter list, and if you did not follow up with her every single month for 7 months in the form of content or, just educational information, I guarantee you that somebody else in the marketplace will have followed up with her. And that person will have put her on their distribution list, and she will call them instead. So it's worth your while, it's worth your time, and it's worth your energy to make sure you have an automated newsletter that goes out to every contact that you have in your list. And that way you can, doesn't matter what the lead close time is, you'll always be there. There are 2 types of accounts that we use for our clients. This is no big secret. You can certainly start one of these yourself. So everybody talks about constant contact for their newsletter distribution. And I have no problem with, and there are 100 email newsletter companies out there. I have no problem with any of them. The reason we do not use constant contact is, number 1, they're more expensive than others. Number 2, yes, they have tons of features and cool things you can do, and you can make the newsletters look gorgeous and amazing and beautiful, but guess what? The more HTML coding a newsletter has behind the scenes, the more likely it is that it will go to spam. So that's reason number 1 why our newsletters are not incredibly crazy looking. Number 2 is that constant contact does not offer an automation feature. And we have worked with Constant Contact with a couple of our clients up until very recently. And although you can pull in an RSS feed, which I'll tell you about in just a second, it is not an automated process. You physically have to log in and make the newsletter go or schedule it every single month. And there is no way of getting around that. So the two companies that we use that are the most cost effective, they even have a level that is free, and the easiest to work with an automated newsletter are Campaign Monitor and MailChimp. You can use whatever you like. You may not even ever go to an automated newsletter. As long as you're sending it out every single month, it doesn't really matter how it's happening. If you have a staff member that can dedicate themselves to making that go out no matter what, then by all means do whatever you like. But this is really more for the folks that are very busy, they have very little time on their hands, and they need something to go out that they don't have to necessarily think about. So Campaign Monitor and MailChimp are the two companies that we turn to for this type of automation. And here's how it works. Where does the content come from? First of all, in our services, it's all about the content. It's all about fresh, unique content that goes from your website or your blog or both, whichever, they're together a lot of times, from your blog to into an RSS feed that in a WordPress website is automatically created, and that RSS feed is sucked up by that little email newsletter system and creates your newsletter for you. So you have to put fresh, unique content on your website in the form of a blog post every single month or every single week, or more than that. For our clients, we post weekly, and then they submit their company news, so they have, between 1 and 3 posts a week usually going onto their website, which is fabulous. All of those little articles, whether we wrote them for them as a ghostwriter or they submit them to us, they're in an RSS feed as soon as we post them, and that RSS feed goes to the email newsletter system, and out pops a beautiful newsletter one time per month. The client doesn't have to log into that account to see that that happened, and neither do we usually. There's some troubleshooting that you have to do from time to time, but for the most part, this is an automated setup. So this is what it sort of looks like. Now, this is not the top of the newsletter. I just took a screenshot of the middle of the newsletter so that you could see what the articles look like. And we'll talk about this in just a minute. Each article in the newsletter is a blog post from your website, and it's from the past 4 or 5 weeks. So this system takes the title, the excerpt, and it has a read more button. It tells you who the author is, and you can, of course, tweet it, like it, read it, whatever you want to do. It's very simple and very easy on the eyes, and I'll talk about that again. One of the things that is recommended is that you always use a familiar from name. So think about the way your business is presented and sort of the demographics of your community. If you live in a really small town and everybody knows your name, then you probably want that newsletter to go out from you personally as the owner of ABC Home Care or whatever it is. If you feel like you're in a big city and people would probably know the name of your business before they're going to know the name of the owner or the marketer, whoever it's being sent out from, then you want to go ahead and use your business as the from name. Now, in our case, for our clients, we let them do either one. We usually set it up as a newsletter coming from the owner of ABC Home Care or whatever home care agency they're with. But some people prefer that we just use the company name, and that's perfectly okay. You can decide on that. But use something that you feel like people would be more familiar with. And then break your newsletter into chunks so you can see how this is really set apart. There's really easy stuff here to read. Research has shown that people don't read your email campaigns left to right like a book, but instead they skim over them looking for things of interest. So imagine that you're not on a big screen and you're on a little bitty cell phone, or you're on an iPad, or you're on iPad mini, or any kind of mobile device. You're probably just going to scroll through this, and see if there's something that catches your eye. You're going to click on that title or that read more button, and you're going to be driven right back to that person's website to read that full article. That happens to me all day long. I receive about 30,000 emails a month personally, and a lot of it is spam and junk, but I kind of like it because, I mean, I don't know if I really like it. Like would be a strong word. But I like to read all of my social media newsletters, and I probably subscribe to 50 of them. I don't get time to read them all, but boy, oh boy, when that newsletter comes and I see it and I look through the titles, that's all I'm doing is skimming the titles and thinking, ooh, I got to read that. Ooh, I got to read that. And that's it. I don't take the time to read long dissertations in my email. I look for that newsletter that has the titles, and I look for something I can skim through and click on and read. So break it into chunks and keep it simple. Include benefit-focused headings and small chunks of text. So you may prefer to have more text in here than we do, but you can just keep it to a paragraph or so. You don't need a long, the whole blog post doesn't need to be in here. That would be way too much. Add a prominent call to action, a header, and in the header, in the footer, and throughout. So here you can see in the header of every newsletter that we send out, first of all, at the very top, we find that a lot of people will click on the web version because they're actually receiving the email in the text format because their company email system will only send them the text version, not all the HTML. Again, another reason why HTML doesn't really, making it beautiful and gorgeous may not matter. Most people are receiving the text version. So if they click on that web version, whether it comes to them in text or not, they still get the opportunity to click on the web version of the newsletter. They do click on that a lot, we find. And when they click on that, they see the whole thing open up on their device that they're looking at it on in color. So you can see that we have a header there. It says, call us today, 213-351-9100, and we have their branding. So their phone number, their branding, and if you click on their newsletter header, it should go to their website. So and then there's also the ability to like it, tweet it, or forward that newsletter at the top. And you can see here we have a little bit more text, but it's a very simple, very easy to read, and there's a call to action right at the top of the newsletter. There's never a time when people don't know how to get a hold of you. So the need for a great content strategy is a must for marketing in 2016. And that's why we did this webinar. One, because e-newsletters are awesome. They will increase your revenue because you're catching up with those people that you don't have time to personally contact every single month. You can't possibly do that with everybody. But you can put them on your newsletter list. The other thing that we see when newsletters go out, our clients' newsletters usually go out on the 1st of the month or the 15th of the month or somewhere in there, but we have a big chunk of them that go out on the 1st and a big chunk that go out on the 15th. And what we see happening is a huge increase in communication between all of the referral sources and the potential clients and the people who are out there and the actual home care agency. We see people hitting reply and replying to folks and saying, hey, you know what, I should have called you last week. Glad I saw this email today. Can we get together and talk about my mom? I know we've talked before, but now I think we're ready. We see that happening all the time. Or from a referral source, hey, I haven't talked to you in a while. Do you have time to get together for coffee next week? Those kinds of things. So your e-newsletter spurs a lot of communication, activity, and the traffic on websites. Every time this newsletter goes out, the traffic on our clients' websites goes up. There's a big spike every single month at the time the newsletter goes out. So collect those email addresses, put as many people on your list as you possibly can, send out your email newsletter once a month. With all the things that I just said, your revenue will increase by 10% over the course of 1 year. All right, let's see here. Okay, so I will take any questions that anybody has. Does anybody have a question about the development of a newsletter or how we process ours? Let's see. Here we do have a couple questions. What's the process for obtaining the email addresses for the e-newsletter distribution list, and what type of permissions are required? Well, The CAN Spam Act requires that you have an opt-out at the top or bottom of every single newsletter that you send out, and it requires that you have your contact information at the bottom. So in my screenshots, you can't see the bottom of these newsletters, but everybody's address, direct phone number, name of company is there, and at the top or bottom, somewhere in there, there's an unsubscribe. So we do have an unsubscribe there. You should have permission from people to send them a newsletter. If you don't have permission and you put them on your newsletter list, what will happen is if they don't want to hear from you, they'll hit unsubscribe. If they do want to hear from you or they don't mind hearing from you, they'll just keep letting it roll. So that's how we do that. Do you use the same newsletter articles for all agencies? No. If you think about, we have hundreds of clients across the country. Each client receives a unique article from us every single week. Therefore, the article that ABC Home Care is different from the article that so-and-so Home Care receives. So all of our clients get a unique article. You cannot put the same content on people's websites, or that will create a Google penalty, a duplicate content penalty. So all of our clients' content is unique, and therefore all of our clients' newsletters are unique to one another. So we don't have the same content on everyone's newsletters. This is an automated process. Anything that goes on our client's website, boom, goes out in the newsletter. And that's why we talk to our clients about submitting company news, telling us about those senior fairs, about all the things that they've been doing out there. And that way we can have those write-ups in there on top of the content that we create for them in their blog and on their website. So no, we do not have the same newsletter articles for each agency. That would be a bad idea. Does anybody else have any questions about newsletters, about creating them, about content, about where to get content, any of those questions? If you do have a question, you can just type it in, and we'll take as many of those as we can. If no one else has any questions, this has been a short webinar, but one that we thought was important to cover because e-newsletters really are a super important part of your marketing strategy. Anybody else have questions? I'm going to call it in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, well, thank you, everybody. If you need help, you can reach us at LTC Expert Publications. Our website is ltcsocialmark.com, or you can call us at 888-404-1513, 888-404-1513. Thanks, everybody. And, we have one more question. Do you write the articles, or do you pay doctors for pieces? No, we have professional writers that write the articles. That's what people pay us to do, is write the articles. So we have people who write them. And do you just write about home care in your newsletter? No, we write about all kinds of different healthcare issues. So we write about medical issues, we write about home care, we write about senior care, elder care, tips, hints, healthcare celebrations that are going on each month. We talk about Alzheimer's and dementia. We talk about everything that would be senior related. And if it's a home care agency that also cares for children, we do pediatric content as well. So I hope that answers your questions. If any of you need more information, visit our website or give us a call, and we will be happy to help you. 888-404-1513. Thanks, everybody, for joining us for our quick webinar today, and we hope to talk to you again next week on Facebook when we do our Facebook Live stuff. We'll send you the replay today. Thanks, everybody. Bye-bye.